Hi guys, welcome to Star Wars Timeline. Today we're doing the review of the final The Bad Batch episode 16. We have come full circle. Thank you so much for watching and sticking with me along this show and checking out all my video reviews. This has been a very special show and I can't wait to get into discussing this episode. Before I do that, just a quick thought guys here. Please excuse me if I'm not as sharp, on point on my every detail discussing this episode. My mind is a little bit elsewhere. I just had a little bit of an incident, a family emergency. I had to take my father to ER room. He's fine right now, so don't worry about this. I don't mean to make it a big point, but just to suffice to say that I tried to be brief and to the point, and just quickly mention that my father is the reason that I enjoy Star Wars, just like so many of you who are probably watching this video, that you have this family history of sharing these wonderful movies together. So anyway, before we start talking, guys, you could check in the video description below. I left links episode by episode discussing this show. And please be warned, from this point forward, this is going to be a spoiler review. So I'm going to talk about characters, storyline, and so forth. So if you have not seen this season finale, please turn away now. Go watch it, come back, and let's, share our thoughts and discuss this. And I would love to hear your comments below. Anyway, let's jump right into it. Wow. What a conclusion to a show that I have been very positive towards. I felt like there were no fillers here. And this episode comes into the just swinging with storytelling and action. The first half of the season finale, episode 15, was pretty strong and left us on a cliffhanger, which honestly a lot of fans thought like, hey, this could be an interesting conclusion if the show was indeed only 15 episodes. But we have one more here, and I felt that there was more closure and it brought the story arc to its full completion before we jump into the obviously announced season 2 and we see where the story evolves from there. So we start, of course, with a bombardment and the destruction of the Kamino city. Admiral Rampart and all the now Imperial cruisers are there just bombarding and destroying the planet. And as I discussed in the previous episode, it was such a heart-wrenching and an emotional moment when we see the abandoned cloners' facilities, like the diner rooms and the cloning chambers and all that stuff. It felt very heartbreaking, and this trend continues in this episode. And we start off with this crazy and very dark action sequence of the Bad Batch running away. The Crosshair has joined them momentarily because they have no other choice. They got to get away from this place together, and they have to work towards that common goal. And it felt like a very gritty and dark war film kind of like things. There's stuff exploding everywhere, and they're like dodging all these explosions by just a thin thread. It was pretty intense, pretty interesting. And I got to say, guys, I was very complimentary of this show in terms of its visuals. From the Clone Wars to the Rebel series to now the Bad Batch, I mean, the Lucasfilm has elevated the game, and all the special effects that are going on in the show are just top tier. But I wanted specifically to bring up water, because obviously we're dealing with Kamino, and if you remember Attack of the Clones when it came out in theaters in 2002, I mean, the special effects were mind-blowing. All those CGI water simulations and waves and stuff like that, and Storm, it was beautiful to look at. And I'm happy to say that this also holds true to this show, and particularly in this episode, it adds this another layer and this dimension to the show. Like, wow, look at the forces of nature at play here. It was also fun to watch that Omega and Crosshair get separated from the rest of the group. And honestly, intuitively, and as this moment happened, I said, ooh, I want that to happen for the rest of the episode. I want them to be separate there and kind of work together and share their feelings in isolation, so the Crosshair doesn't have to confront the entire team, and they work together too, rescuing each other and proving that they're brothers after all. It didn't go that way. It chose to do it in quite a different manner, which is, I think, equally as efficient, if not even more effective than what I personally hoped this episode would be. And it was the whole episode was punctuated by this wonderful musical score with this little ticking kind of theme in the background that's saying from this point forward, where the city submerges completely underwater and it hits the rock bottom, that's it. They're on a timer. Survival is the first priority, and the entire facility is about to be overflown with water, and time is of essence. Every second counts. That created such a great sense of tension that I absolutely was hooked from start to finish. And the team is quickly reunited. As I said, it didn't go the route that I wanted to because the show wanted to opt out and have the Bad Batch team with the Omega and with the droid AZ to work together and really come and pour their feelings out and kind of bring the emotional closure to each character. And we see that reconciling with Crosshair. We see how he's there opposing the rest of the crew, not based on a chip that has been long destroyed. And he ideologically doesn't agree with the rest of the team. He said, look, we were supposed to be part of this new empire, new order, because they're trying to, bring the whole galaxy under control. And I love Omega in the show. She's my favorite character. And here we see the reason for her compassion. She's the oldest sister to all of them. Even though she looks younger than the rest of the clones, she is a naturally born and bred clone, just like Boba Fett is. And she's actually chronologically older than the rest of them combined. And in a way, she may have some childish feelings, but she's also more experienced. They say that girls, once they hit puberty, they start developing all these the hormones hit. They hit these motherly kind of instincts, and that's how she feels to them. She wants to protect them. There's some criticisms. Some fans that I've talked to said that Omega feels a bit annoying and grating. That she constantly wants to save everybody. Well, first of all, she's a child, and second of all, that's her instinct. Don't forget, guys, she is genetically identical to the rest of them. She's their sister, and she wants to help out emotionally as much as with her, hands. And the next point is, as I mentioned, the entire episode is set up to have this mounting pressure and challenge. If it's not one obstacle like the Empire destroying the city, then it's the water piling up. And then when they get into the tunnel, you see the cracks in the glass, and then the monster comes out, providing us with that suspenseful creature feature sort of thing that we saw obviously in the Phantom Menace with those underwater scene, when they go deep under into the ocean. We see that Return of the Jedi when Luke fights the Rancor, obviously. That was a cool callback to the previous Star Wars material. But also, I absolutely love how the runners of the show keep referencing the Alien franchise. This happened way before in the Clone Wars series when Rebecca on Geonosis and the clones are actually going into the subterranean caverns and they're trying to figure out where the Mother Queen is, and they're one being picked off one by one. That was a clear callback to Aliens. And here, Crosshair pointing out to the young Omega, and she goes what? You put her in charge? I'm oh my God, this is a scene from the Aliens 2 movie, if you guys remember, when one of the characters, the one that is always panicking and stuff, I forget his name right now, it escapes me, but I'm such a huge fan of it, when he's crying out there, and he said, well, you're gonna put a little girl in charge? I'm oh my God, this is awesome stuff. And for a sci-fi geek like myself, it was really a nice Easter egg. And it was also very fun to watch as the environment itself, the sinking city, is as much as an obstacle to the Bad Batch as their emotional thoughts and feelings and confrontation towards Crosshair, how they're trying to reconcile. And we're slowly seeing how they're becoming orphans, really. They're becoming abandoned by the Empire and the Republic because their only home, the physical place that they could call home, Kamino, is being destroyed. And it was such an emotional episode to watch, along with the previous one. So obviously, they had to make this narrative coming back full circle, and the Bad Batch returns to their actual room. And it kind of reminisce quickly what happens there. I love that moment there. I didn't feel that it was trivial at all. It adds more to giving closure to the characters. That's saying, look, let's say goodbye to this place because we're never going to see it again. It almost represents these, when we talk about the myth of Star Wars, these greater common themes, which we had since, ancient, Greek classical times, it's sort of like a back to the mother's womb just for a second, but they know that they can't stay there for long. It's almost like saying goodbye to your dead mom, like you're coming back and you're saying, I love you, I remember you, but they have to say goodbye to this place. And this is where Omega reveals to them that, look, as she was saying, she's reminding them that I'm your biggest sister. I care for you guys, and I want you not to fight each other, but be together as one team. And I absolutely love her compassion for the clones and her impulse to help everybody around her. She's such an interesting and layered character, and they absolutely nailed her instincts and behavior as a kid. She actually acts as a child who is discovering her feelings, who is discovering how to go about and be an adult and help others in need. Because sometimes what you want to do is run there and help them out and extend your helping hand, but that's not how things work. And I absolutely love, excuse me, guys. Let me actually take a sip here. I absolutely love how also Crosshair, we were not provided with simple solutions. That, he was on the backside, with the Empire, and now he's back to the good side. It's like, oh no, guys, I'm sorry, my bad. I'm gonna be back with you. No, there's no easy answers in this episode and in this show. And as much as it is for kids, it also treats us adults very, respectfully. I absolutely love the dynamics between Crosshair and Omega. And what I want to say is, by the time that the crew parts away, obviously there's this little thing with AZ, the droid. I felt was such a wonderful moment where they drop into these capsules and the droid is navigating them up. He tries to lift them. Omega's is the last one. I don't understand exactly why she was the one left alone. I would have thought they would have some supervision and one of the adult guys would have been there with you. But that was my tiny nitpick. I didn't understand why that was happening. But when the droid kind of like ran out of his batteries and went sinking to the bottom of the ocean, I honestly felt like I wanted that to happen. Not obviously because I want the droid gone from the show. He's wonderful. But it would have been such a powerful and teachable moment for Omega that sometimes you have to let go of things. Sometimes you have to, say goodbye. It's almost like for a child, when a family has a pet that has to be put to sleep, or, your favorite dog or cat passes away. It's unfortunate, but it's almost like a smaller step preparing a kid for something that we have to confront as adults, that sometimes our loved ones, our parents, will not be with us anymore. And, it was such a heartfelt moment when that little droid went out of his way. He was actually the star of this episode in terms of helping and resolving the situation. And he's sinking to the bottom of the ocean. And Crosshair is the one who pulls him out, because he has to say, look, no matter how I feel about this, I have to get even with Omega and help her out. But honestly, I feel that underneath it all, he wanted to do that. He, in his own special way, he cares for them as well. And the fact that the droid was rescued, I didn't feel like it undermines the episode's strength. And I'll explain why. Because after all, it's a children's show. Don't forget, guys, yes, it has its dark moments and much more sophisticated narrative than previous animated shows. But at the end of the day, we as kids and even adults, we need a moment of respite and have a little bit of satisfaction. Say like, well, okay, we got the destruction of the Kamino, but at least this little droid made it out, and hopefully he'll become a special like sidekick, and Omega gets the chance to tinker him and make him better, make some improvements. So at first there is a moment of him passing away, and we kind of get that sense like, oh, we have to say goodbye. And then, of course, Crosshair rescues him. So fantastic conclusion to the show. And I want to wrap up with my general thoughts on this show overall. I see a potential for at least 4+ seasons. I said it after only a couple of episodes. I said, guys, this is going to go well beyond 4 or 5 episodes. It's going to be a full-blown season. And the story is opening up so many grand avenues for storytelling that there's no way it's going to be only one season. You could tell it by the elements of storytelling. That they're opening up this thread, they're opening this opportunity here. They can go into the dark times and the purge of the Jedi Order. The Darth Vader has only been created, and we don't have no evidence yet of the Inquisitor program, because the Rebel show takes place much later. So there's a lot of stuff to explore here. But at the same time, I don't want the show to run over like 10 or 11 seasons. I don't want it to overstay its welcome. I think that the Rebels did very, very proper conclusions to the show, and said it ended on such a wonderful note that you actually want to see more of it. But you're like, oh, okay, all right, the story completes there. It's a wholesome show, and it's so wonderful that I actually want to go back and rewatch it. That's the proof. That's the testament to the power of storytelling. And I think Rebels was a wonderful show in that regard. I would say that even after one season, this is by far my favorite Star Wars show. The Bad Batch is just killing it, guys. storytelling, characters, the level of animations and improvements. I mean, when you don't see characters on screen, it almost feels like a live action Star Wars. And it's just each episode builds in something, either a grander storyline of the overall show, or it builds on the characters. Sometimes we have an episode which, for some reason, some fans called as a filler. I don't feel that it was. You have episodes where Omega is interacting with Sid, and that's important because Sid almost becomes like a spiritual guide, almost like mini Yoda type of character who kind of gives a piece of wisdom to the Bad Batch and how to behave in the show. So every single episode contributed to pushing along the show forward, and that's the reason I love it. It's not that the Clone Wars show or the Rebels show is worse than any way. I know I'm comparing it a little bit. It's that the point I'm trying to say is that the Bad Batch feels tighter in its storytelling and vision than ever before. It is so focused. It knows exactly what it wants itself to be. Sometimes it challenges the conventions. Sometimes it nails the familiar Star Wars tropes in an interesting and fun ways that doesn't feel repetitive at all, which, of course, a lot of us have the issue with the sequel trilogies that, there's too much repetition and carbon copying from the original saga. So that's my opinion on this show and on this episode. I would love to hear from you guys. Please let me know if you found the season finale successful, and if that's what you hoped you would see. And what was the show overall to you? Like, did you enjoy it as much as the Clone Wars, as the Rebels? Did you enjoy it as much as the Mandalorian? I mean, let's go ahead and compare it to the live action show. I felt it was personally the best Star Wars content we got from Disney, along with the Rebels show. Anyway, my name is Benjamin. I do Star Wars comic book and book reviews, character highlights, lore videos. I have a podcast here. And if you enjoy this kind of content, I would really appreciate your support. Subscribe to my channel, like this video. I always value your input and your comments and sometimes your criticism as well. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll check you out next time.